Welcome back to the Gen Z Speaks podcast. With us today is another really interesting guest, Laith Marsarweh. He is an entrepreneur and currently the founder / CEO at Assistantly. He's been an entrepreneur since he was 8 years old, and today he'll just be walking through his entrepreneurial journey with us and how he got started in business and some of his projects right now and his current work at Assistantly and other projects. So welcome to the show, Laith. Appreciate you.
Thank you guys for having me on. I'm super excited to, talk about me and then, see how I can help and inspire, other people. And I know what you guys are doing is really great for whether you're Gen Z, millennial, baby boomer, doesn't really matter, right? It's cool for somebody to hopefully get inspired to do something great. So.
Absolutely. And we're lucky to have you. Walk us through that, 8-year-old Laith, like what was going through your mind and like how you were just inspired to, put yourself out there and explore entrepreneurship at such a young age.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds weird when you say like, hey, you're working at 8 years old, right? That sounds like what kind of child labor, that must be breaking some child labor laws. I wouldn't say working at 8 years old was really my choice, right? It was more like my dad, he owns like a Middle Eastern grocery market. I'm in Sacramento, and when he started the market, when I was like 8 years old in Sacramento, it's just like kind of like the cultural thing. Like I'm not doing anything. Like come to work with me, and it's like for him because he grew up as a farmer, so like he was working like when he was a little kid. So for me, he brought me in and was like, it's me and you, buddy. Like let's get to work. And being 8 years old, you're like shy and naive, and you don't know what's really going on in the world. I mean, you're only in elementary or middle school, your elementary school, when you're 8 years old. So, he just brought me in and I was just like getting accustomed to like life essentially. Like it's pretty weird tossing an like you wouldn't go to like a Ralph's grocery store and see an 8-year-old behind the cashier, right? Like that doesn't make any sense because like they're not going to know. But I just kind of followed kind of took his lead, just watched what he did. And, whether it was like cashier or like sweeping or like stocking, like he had like 3 tiers of his shelves, and like I was only able to reach the first tier because I was so short, so it was like it was cool. Like I mean, I look back at it and I'm like, damn, that was tough. Like that was really hard. Why did he make me do that? But like, you come back like almost 20 years later and you're like, oh, like I understand. But like it's like he started taking me to the store when I was 8. Like he would wake me up in the morning, like if I didn't have school, he'd be like, hey, you're coming to work. And it just wasn't really much of an option. And, I would try to like get out of it. Like I'd pretend like I was sleeping, or I'd pretend like I was sick. And, but like for him, it's like, who cares? It's a cough, or, you're not sleeping, and just wake me up and take me. So it's, from like 8 years old to like, pretty much from 8 years old to high school, because I was in Sacramento, I was just working in the store a lot, on the weekends, on the weekdays. If I wasn't in school and if I wasn't playing soccer, then I was at the store. Like there wasn't really like, a thing where like I would like hang out with friends a ton or like go do these crazy adventures and activities. It was just like I was like ingrained with like, like school, soccer, work. But for him, it's kind of a toss up between work and soccer. So yeah, I mean, like at a young age, like when you don't know that much, it's interesting to like interact with people that are older. So like it really taught me to become like from like shy, naive to like actually start having a voice and conversating with people and joking with people. And my dad is like a super lax guy. Like he's like really like fun and funny. He makes jokes and like he doesn't really give a shit. Like he's very authentic. He's not trying to impress anybody. It's not like the typical like you go to Ralph's and it's like, sir, how can I? It's like he's just funny. And I learned a lot, like from him, and kind of how he handles his customers and like why he has such a loyal customer base. And I helped him grow the store essentially just from like, just doing different things. And I have a different mind on it, but he's still in the store today. It's not like it's like gone. Like he's still doing the exact same thing as if I was 8. When it looks the exact same when I was 8, he's in the exact same as if I was 8. It's like it's crazy to see like in like last 20 he's still doing the exact same thing. So
I think even though you were at a young age, you still got like a wealth of experience just working with your dad. But what was the most important lesson that you learned? And I know it's hard to like pinpoint one thing, but if you could, like, what do you think it'd be?
Yeah, I mean, working with my dad is just like, I mean, dude, like I just like kind of just like buck up. I mean, like you go through shit, right? Like you just like you have to go through shit. And like, with me, like I was like sweeping floors to to cleaning bathrooms to like, you know, helping cut meat, like not in that order, right? Because that'd be weird. But like it was just like you kind of have to go through like the trenches and like go like kind of learn, like the bottom level tasks to get up to like, just doing the cashier or just stocking. So it's like, with me, it's like I always expected like when I started business, I'm gonna have to do everything, right? At first and understand it, like and understand how everything works. Then I'm going to be able to delegate it. So like I was able to, like he taught me everything. So then when he taught me everything, it's like easy to delegate. So like I was like really well rounded, which was great. But like the problem with him is because like he knows how to do everything and he has trust issues delegating it to other people. For me, I learned that like it's good to learn everything, go through shit, but then like once you have it figured out, like to start like having people do what they're good at. So
yeah, for sure, man. Like, so similar experience. So when I was younger, for whatever reason, like I was like, my dad is my idol still, right? But like he was my idol. And so I didn't really like want to hang out with like friends. Like when I like out of school, I was like, I don't really want to hang out with friends. I kind of want to just go to his work. And so he worked in an office in downtown LA for like this retail company. And like I remember just going like he would try to drop me off like summer camp, stuff like that during like summer and stuff. And like I just wanted to go to work with him, right? And it's not a little different, right? Because I'm not doing actual tasks like you were doing, like getting that like hands-on, like that hands-on experience, but just kind of like watching and just like sitting in the conferences and talking to like people that he would have to communicate with in order to like see how the operations are working, or how furniture is compared to like tech and like tech sales and all of that. And you kind of learn like margins when you're younger, and like you learn stuff that other kids don't know, right? And so similar to you, like I was a business major, but for 100%, like going through that experience young and then taking that on and kind of like stacking it in high school and learning more about investing and like real estate and like stuff like that. It made college a lot easier in my opinion. Like, cause you already understood, right? Do you have a similar like experience with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I always say, like the best education I received was probably from that store. I mean, I went to high school, I went to a 4-year university here in Orange County. I mean, the like the way I learned the most about like the business world or just life in general was just working, right? Like, because like once if you're like working in and you like in the trenches, like you're actually in it. Like where in school they try teaching you stuff where it's like realistic, not really realistic, like. They don't teach you, like I went to a 4-year school, and I'm not to discredit it. I had a great experience, but it's like I didn't learn how to create like an LLC or S corp or how to do taxes properly, or like how to create SOPs or how to break up your business and like admin ops, marketing, sales, social media. Like I didn't learn any of that shit. Like I learned by doing and like understanding by like being in business, and it's really helped. But like I would say like yeah, like I would say like working with my dad helped like prepare me for like what the future, like whether it was college or high school or my first corporate job or whatever. Like I wasn't like, oh my god, I'm super unprepared.
So actually talk to us about your college experience. So was it a choice? Was it your choice to go to college, or was it because of your parents? Or what was that choice going into college, and why did you always have that entrepreneurial mindset where you're like, I want to do a business major, I want to make a company after? Or was it just, I like business, so I'm going into it?
I mean, I understood business like pretty decent, for like coming into college just by like working with my dad. I mean, he has a small grocery store. It's not like he has massive chains or anything, like, and he's a very old school guy, like, and if I went in there now, like it'd be completely different, but he won't let me. And so it's I'll let him do him. Right. So, but like, I mean, I mean, I wanted to go to college, like, I wanted to, because everybody's like education. And I didn't know what college entailed. Like, I thought I was going to learn all this stuff more about business than I did, but it really wasn't so much like that. I always knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur and be like my own boss, right? Like everybody wants to be their own boss and do their own thing. But like, I didn't know I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I wanted to do business, but like, I couldn't pinpoint what I wanted to do. Like, I took a class at Chapman where I really got into virtual reality and augmented reality, but like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So then like, I ended up working, like, I was doing some mock interviews at Chapman, and I ended up meeting like my boss at the time. And, we clicked very well, and I got hired in a corporate company and doing sales, and I'm good at sales, but I'm only good at sales when I'm passionate about what I'm selling. right? So like I would say I'm a good salesperson, but I wasn't great there because I didn't believe in the product or the service that we were doing. So that's why I always lacked, which then made me like, I'm like, well, F this. And, you know, I there was like these virtual tours that were, you know, that were big thing, and Matterport cameras. And I learned about the technology, and it had to do with like virtual reality and real estate. And, you know, I was just like, I want to start a business around this. Then I like pretty much took a risk. I quit that job and like took the risk of like starting this virtual tour company. And I'm like, I just will figure it out. Like I'm a hustler. I'm going to figure it out. Right. You know, so that's kind of what I did, but I wouldn't say like I had like a plan in college of like what, like I did business management and psychology. So I always wanted to manage people, but like I didn't know how I was going to get to that point.
What do you think
That
it
is sweet. Oh,
What do you think it is about college that kind of, I mean, you know, you can go to business school and you can, you know, major in business. I know Matt, you majored in business as well, but in your experience, you know, all of us are recent college grads. And what do you think it is about college that kind of disincentivizes entrepreneurship?
I don't think they teach you the core things about starting your own company or becoming an entrepreneur. Maybe because I wasn't an entrepreneur's emphasis. Like I didn't do entrepreneurship as my emphasis, but
Mhm.
I don't even know in that emphasis if they teach you like all that kind of stuff that I had to learn. Like I feel like there's no better way to learn and like then start your own company really, because like you kind of just have to figure it out. But I mean, like I would say college was useful for the network. Like I met a lot of cool people, like a lot of different people that like even like now I still stay in touch with some of them. You know, some of them we get some business deals going back and forth. But like as far as like the education and like what I learned, you know, I wouldn't say like what I learned, like 1% of what I learned there has been carried over to like the 3 businesses that I've started. I've learned from me literally starting one business to like learning like what works and what doesn't, to me starting a second business to be like, okay, this is what's worked and what hasn't. And to me starting now a third business to be like, okay, here's how we can go about things. And it's just like the people you surround yourself with, right, you know, are like is pretty much the result of your net worth, which people always told me that I never understood. You know, but if you surround yourself with like good people that are like smart and like motivated and are intuitive and have been through shit before, like they can also like help, you know, mentor and you know, provide some advice on like how to do things. So like, you know, I hate to say it, like if I can rewind when I go to college, probably not. I would probably be four more years ahead of my game if I started these companies beforehand. But I mean, like I'm not gonna know, right? Like I met a lot of people in college, but the education aspect of it, like I don't know, it was all right.
Yeah, dude, that's the thing, right? Like I'm in a similar boat. Well, my whole thing was I got into college. I started high school early, I guess, because like my birthday. So I was like 17 when I graduated, and then I graduated at 20 years old out of college. And like the whole goal was to just wrap up quicker just so I can be ahead of the game. But I went into commercial real estate right off the bat. And like, obviously that has nothing to do with like my business degree at all, right? Like these guys do not care about business degrees. All they care about is that you're a hustler, you're a self-starter, and like you want it. And so it kind of sucks because you kind of think about shit. I could have been 3 years ahead if because I already knew this person I jumped into business with. And then I could have just kept going. But that's the thing, you just don't know, right? You take risks and you take challenges, and you know, time goes on and you figure it out. But yeah, in terms of like entrepreneurship, it totally seems like you can't learn it. I know people that have like minored in it. I don't know anybody that's majored in entrepreneurship, but I know people that minored in it. And the thing is, it's not taught, right? Like then they start reciting you like what you should do rather than like actually going and doing it. You know what I mean? Like it's hustle like isn't taught. It's kind of just it's given. Like it's given. But like right out of college, I'm interested. How because I did kind of like a business development for commercial real estate too. How'd you like that? How'd you like that original jump in? Didn't dig it.
I mean, like the salary I got paid extremely. Like I negotiated a really good salary offer and commission. So like at my age, I'm making good money, right? Which I was like, oh, money, like this is great. I'm gonna do well, and I'm gonna kill it. And then like once I really started, like you know, and the company also promised me like mentorship and we'll teach you this, and they're like, all right, like go ahead and do it. And I'm like, well, what am I doing? Right? Like there's no guidance or training on it. So I was like, okay, well, how the hell am I going to get sales if I don't know what I'm doing? I don't have a territory. So like the whole experience was kind of a mess to start with, but I mean, it just like the whole sale, like I was in, it was an escrow company, like it just wasn't for me. Like I just like I wasn't like waking up like super stoked to like show up to work. And that's how you just know, like if you're not stoked waking up to work, it's just not a fit. And obviously I understand people have to pay their bills, like I still have bills to pay, but it gets to a point where you're like, oh, I mean, how much longer am I just going to waste my time, so with that whole escrow company, it was just like, I don't know, like like, and two, like I was really restricted. Like I like to like talk the way I talk and dress the way I like to dress. And like, I couldn't dress, like I was wearing certain suits and I didn't like it. Right. Like I wasn't wearing socks with my shoes, or I was wearing low socks. They didn't like it. So it's like, I'm like, bro, I'm like I'm like, I want to dress the way I want to dress. I'm younger. I'm not fucking 50 wearing a suit and tie. I'm not doing it. I'm just not going to do it. So like, like that to me was a turn off. Like if I can't be myself and I can't talk, like this is how I talk. Like, and even on my sales calls, I have sales calls with like people that have small companies, and I've talked to people that are the CEOs of the biggest companies, and I talk just the way I'm talking now, because I'm like, I've always just wanted to be myself and authentic with the way I like talk and sell and be myself, because I think that's a massive value. Like when you can be yourself, it's a huge point. And I couldn't be myself there. Like they're always looking at what I was wearing, what I was doing, where I was going, and I was like, nah, F this, I'm out of here. I'll figure it out. I'd rather like make less and do it on my own than work for somebody that controls what I do.
Yeah, man. Ultimately, like the reason, so I took off, I did commercial real estate for about 6 months, and like similar dude situation. They said I'm being mentored, this and that. And I did have one cool mentor, so I will never knock him for that. But like the top guy there, man, I would wear like a short sleeve button up, like still a button up even, right? And he's just like, dude, no, like you cannot wear that kind of stuff. And like, or sometimes I'd wear like, I'm not going out in the field or I'm jumping on the phones. I'm wearing like Vans, like, no, dude, you can't wear them. Like, dude, relax, man. Like everybody else is like that. Why can't I? And it's just like that control factor, like you don't want to be restrained. You want to just be comfortable. And, if you want to jump on the phone, just go on there. And yeah, man, it's, it's pretty funny, dude, going straight out of college into like a sales role like that. But what it does do, I'm sure you have the same experience. Like it teaches you a lot about people in general, right? And like how people operate, and like, it kind of shows you how you don't want to be in the future when you are in that position of them.
Yeah. I mean, every job I've done, whether it's with my dad or like server jobs or like my corporate companies, I've learned exactly what I don't want to do going forward. So like it does, like I've learned like some great things, like I've learned some great things in each aspect of my work experience, but I've also learned a lot of things of like I'm definitely not going to manage my people like that, because like if I'm feeling this way, I can't imagine how everybody else is feeling. So like I've learned like what not to do, which I think of learning what not to do is even more helpful than like learning what to do.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think
And just real quick, I just wanted to point out that I think it's so important, the fact that you mentioned authenticity, right? Like you don't want to talk a certain way to cater towards some people's interests, or you don't want to wear something just for someone else's. It's just like, that's just not a fun work environment. That's just not a fun life. You just want to be yourself and talk how you talk, dress how you dress, and I feel like that also encourages people to work harder and work more for themselves, rather than thinking this company's controlling me, and I'm just a worker, where it's like they can be themselves. And I think that's important, like how you mentioned that you talk with like that with your sales, and you talk like that with your employees. So I think that's super important as well.
there's a saying by Kevin O'Leary. He says like a salary is a drug they give you to get you to forget your dreams.
Yeah.
And like that stayed with me so much. Like it's so true, especially early on in your 20s after college. Like you said, where a salary, like having a consistent salary and commission on top of that is so enticing. And like, it's like you feel like you can settle for that. But at the end of the day, like if you truly want to do something, your early 20s is the time to pursue it. And like refuse that drug, as enticing as it sounds. What made you want to quit your job, right? Because you said you eventually left, and then you wanted to pursue the thing that you have wanted to pursue for a long time.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of different. I mean, going back to the salary thing, like salary is an interesting thing. Like I know a lot of people that work salary, and that's not to discredit people working corporate. If they love it, that's great. But like the way I looked at it, I'm like, okay, I make 75, then I make 100, then I make 150, then I make 200, then I make 250, then I'm capped, then I'm done. The CEO is never going to let me make more than he is, right? So, so it's like you're going to be capped eventually, and like it would have taken me like 3 to 5 years. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna wait 3 to 5 years to make salary and do all that stuff. And like, then I get taxed. I always think of like post-tax, not pre-tax. Like you gave me 100,000, that's not 100,000. I still got me a tax like, $30,000 on top of that. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. So, but it had to do with just like one, micromanagement. Like I hated the way I was managed. I hated being managed. I don't like the fact that people are like always asking me, where are you? What are you doing? Like, tracking me, like, looking at my calendar, like that to me just felt like very just like sleazy. Some of the people I worked with were great, but I just like, I kept waking up every day just hating what I did, and I just hated that feeling of like I have to go to work, where it's like the mentality is like I'm very fortunate to get to work, right? Like, and like that's why I literally just, I'm like, you know what, like I don't even care about you get to a point you don't even care about the money at this point. You just like, if I can like literally do what I want to do, and whether that was like virtual tours or VAs or like the platform we're doing now, it's like if I can make up like excited to work on a project or excited to work on a company and like provide other people an opportunity, then like that's what I'm going to do. And then like I always say like money will come. I'm not like really, obviously money's great, like I'm not like really money motivated, like that's just not who I am. I mean, like it's great to pay your bills and do extra stuff, and obviously everybody wants to make a good living, but like I noticed with the companies is like you're not going to make like a killing at the start. Like it's just like, unless you have this revolutionary thing that nobody's ever seen before, or like it's something insane. But like with all the companies, I knew I was going to have to like eat shit first to like, get in. Like I had to do like getting clients and reaching out to people, but it's cool because I was the one doing it. And I knew at the end of the day, like I was making what I was putting into it. So like, that's what I enjoyed, was like my efforts that I'm putting into it, like are going to, like no one else is, like it's not a benefit for everybody else at the time, it was a benefit for me, which I liked. Like, it sucked when like I was doing efforts and I was getting such a small piece of the pie and everybody else was getting a bigger piece of the pie. I never liked that feeling.
Totally, man. It's a really crappy feeling, right? When you're putting on all this work and then you just get like that whatever percent commission. So jumping into that first company that you built, like how was it in the beginning?
It was good. There's a lot of education. Like a lot of people didn't know about virtual tours at the time. Like they didn't believe in it. They didn't understand it. I mean, I was doing a lot of presentations in front of a lot of people about like the benefits and, why they should be incorporating it. And I mean, I got a lot of no's, so many no's, but like, I just kept pushing until like, there's always going to be like one agent that saw the value in it. And it was just like more, not even so much about the product, is about the person selling the product. So like I tried to build a personal relationship with them, not so much just like sell. It's just like actually caring about the people that you are potentially going to work with was really important to me. So like, talk to them about their family, their kids, their dogs, like what they're up to, like how can I help in any other way. So it's like building a personal relationship for me first was a big one. And then like say like kind of like a soft sell. I'm never like I'm not like a high pressure sales guy ever, because I hate people that are like that, like that's me personally. I'm not going to go in and be like, hey, here's the virtual tour, you need to buy it now. It just didn't make sense to me. So like I'd build these personal relationships. I made a lot of good relationships while I was in the escrow company. So like I met a lot of people like in title and escrow and agents and brokerages. So like I was able to like reach out to my network to see like how, like how I can incorporate virtual tours and, different real estate sectors. And, like my network helped me push this technology and like brought me in presentations and, but I wasn't making that much for a while, right? Like it took a while, and then like the pandemic hit, like, and like virtual tours became like a necessity. And, I had like, I expanded my service catalog by adding like a photographer to my team, and he was like amazing and he killed it. And, his name was Kelvin, and he like by bringing him on, like we were able to do like more than virtual tours, which was great. And then like we just expanded the company from there. And then like I exited in December because I'm like it just, so I kind of lost a little bit of passion for that. So then once I knew I lost a little bit of passion for it, and like the uncertainty in the real estate market, I was just like the VA company for me was doing really well and I loved it. So I kind of just wanted to shift gears and just focus on one. But now I'm building another one. So it's like now it's different.
So, talk to us about your current projects. You're working on assistantly. And how did you come up with the idea for assistantly? And was there like a moment of inspiration, or was it just kind of using your intuition and thinking of different ideas?
No, it was like our real the real estate marketing company that I had, it got to a point where we got so busy during the pandemic that like we couldn't handle the load. I mean, we were sending invoices late, like we were editing photos late, like things were slipping through the cracks, which is like not really like me, like I'm really big on client service and making sure everybody's taken care of. But when the demand is so high, it made it hard because the team wasn't really big. So I had somebody come to me and be like, you should hire a VA to help you with some admin work. And this was only 2 years ago. I was like, oh, what's a VA? And they're like, oh, a virtual assistant. I'm like, what is it, like a robot or like an AI tool? And they're like, no, it's like somebody like remotely will like help take some of those tasks off your plate. And I was like, okay, that sounds too good to be true, but okay. So they connected me with this girl, and she called me off a 949 area code in Newport Beach. She's like, hey, is this Laith? And I go, yeah, this is Laith. And she goes, hey, like, I heard you're interested in VA, would love to hop on a Zoom. And I told the story like a lot, many times to a lot of different people, but anyways, like we hopped on a Zoom call, and I was like super stressed at the time, and I just wanted to get my stuff figured out and see like how I can improve the business and improve our client experience. And like 5 or 10 minutes in, I was like, I go, man, like you have some good energy. Like you were really positive. Like, and it's really refreshing when somebody has like good energy when you're always tired and stressed out. So like she had really good energy, and I was like, are you from Irvine? You live in Irvine? She goes, no, I don't live in Irvine. You don't live in Irvine? I go, okay, you live in LA, San Diego? She goes, no, I don't live in California. And I go, oh, okay. Do you live in Texas, New York? She goes, no. I go, where do you live? And she said, the Philippines. And I go, oh, there's no way. There's no way. You live in the Philippines? I go, you speak better English than I do. Holy shit. I go, what the hell? I go, what time is it over there? And she said 3 a.m. And I go, it's 3 a.m. You have this much energy. You're talking to me right now. And I was like, just like blown away. I'm like, you drinking any coffee? She goes, no. And I go, I was like, what the hell? I go, what have you done as a virtual assistant for real estate agents and brokers? And she started naming off like 15 different things. And I was like, wait, that was you that was doing all this the entire time? I was so confused. And I was like, then I kind of like, sparked in my mind, because like we had so many real estate clients in the real estate marketing company that were always like, they needed help with like admin stuff or like sales stuff or social media stuff, and I'm like, dude, I can't help you, leave me alone, I'm running my own business, but I'm like, they can use a virtual assistant, like this would be perfect. So then I literally just asked her on the spot, and I was like I want to start a VA company. And she was like, what? No, then I asked her the question, how many people are like you in the Philippines? And she said tens of thousands. And I was like, there's tens of thousands of people like you that like are highly skilled and educated and like know what they're doing? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, no brainer. So I just literally asked her like, hey, like I want to start a VA company. And she was super confused because we talked for 45 minutes and she thought I was going to hire a VA, but I was like, no, I want to start a VA company. They didn't even know what a VA was like 5 minutes before that, or before the call. But I was like, I think people can use this. Like, I think it'd be great. The world was going remote. Everybody was shutting down. There was no offices. Like everybody shifted to remote. I was like these people were remote anyways. Like, and they're great. Like they're great, awesome people. So I was like, let's start a VA company. I want to start a VA company. So I hired her as my director of ops, and she like knew people in the Philippines. Like she knew people in her network, and then went to my clients, and I was like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And like, do you want to try it out? And like, I had a couple of clients that tried it out, and people were like kind of just word of mouth and talking about it and having a good experience. And like, we kind of just like slowly started building. And then I added like a really amazing, awesome, like mentor, advisor, partner to it. And he's really, really well connected in the business world. So we went from like it was real estate focused only to like, now we're in like CBD and gaming and tech and professional services. And like, we have clients in US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Europe, like, and it's crazy because it's all remote. I mean, the only person I've ever met in person was my CMO, and I work really closely together. She lives in LA, but everybody else, like, they're Philippines based or they're like in different states. And I haven't met 98% of my company still. 99.
Wow, that's crazy, man. Yeah, it feels weird because currently I'm working remote right now as well, and I've never met any of my coworkers, right? And it's just like a new age. It's like a digital age, like you don't even know these people. But you mentioned you hired it's this lady in the Philippines as your director, right? what are your tips, or what are some tips you would like to give about hiring and kind of what you look for in people, like their qualities and traits? Because I feel like it's, as an entrepreneur, it's a really important skill that you need, which is hiring and like looking for the right people and building a team that is, you know, good and functioning well.
I mean, I like people that take action, right? Like I like people that are like obviously critical thinkers, but like I ask situational questions where like I don't want to have to like dictate every move they do, right? Because then that's going to be a lot of work on my end to like always baby somebody. Like I want somebody that has a strong foundation and understands what they're about to get into, but like can take action without my guidance every single moment. So like, you know, I also want people that like are willing to grow. Like I hire people with the expectation like you are going to grow. Like almost everybody in my company has like, especially in my like internal team, has like grown from like a salesperson to like director of sales, from like a client success manager to like now he's my COO, from like a recruiter to like a head of recruitment. I mean, like, and it's funny because like I train people from scratch. Like I prefer to train people from like scratch sometimes. Like I turn like a great sales guy to like a recruiter, right? Like I trained as, you know, as the sales guy to like, you know, operations and client success. Like, you know, like it's just more like good attitude, positivity, you know, like what I noticed with the remote is like the first part is like showing up, like show up to work. You show up to work on time, you're the job time. I mean, you're already halfway there by showing up on time, you know, but like having somebody that's like willing to learn is like a big one, like willing to grow and willing to take action. You know, we ask 4 very specific questions. Like you'll see, I'm going to post it on my LinkedIn, I think on Monday, but like they're called like the 4 unicorn questions. And it's like, the reason we ask those 4 specific questions is to understand, is like, is somebody logical? Are they tactical? Are they intuitive? Are they independent thinkers? Are they dependent thinkers? Are they procrastinators? Are they organizers? Like I mean, like I ask very fun questions. I don't just like ask like, tell me about your experience. Or like, tell me about your college or your degree, or I don't really care, honestly. Like, I don't care how old you are or what kind of experience you have or where you went to college. Like, if you're willing to learn and you're excited to like show up to work and you're willing to grow and you have a positive attitude, like you can be trained on anything.
In your experience, right, as a co-founder CEO, going off of what Jenish just asked you, there's, you know, different types of working styles. And what have you noticed in terms of, you know, people who do have jobs and have to report to people? What are some qualities that make people productive and, you know, enable them to kind of climb that corporate ladder?
Time blocking, probably, like, you know, blocking off your time. Like, you know, like for me, I'm like an ADD person, right? Like, and I'm like a squirrel. I see something, or like I work on one project and I do like a quarter of it, then I work on another project, I work on a quarter of it. Like, so, but like I literally block time where it's like, you know, whatever, it depends on the tasks that you do, right? Like really for that job. But like, let's say like you have a certain list to do, you know, for that day or for that week, is like creating a priority list is really important. Like what's important to get accomplished now, and like what can be put on the back burner for like the next week or couple of days. And I think a lot of people, like, they have so many tasks on their plate and they don't know where to start and they don't know where to go. And like, they do a little bit of each, but like things don't get done on time and then like they get screwed. Right. But like, you know, time blocking and like putting a priority list in place, like bringing ideas to the table. Like, I mean, I personally love when people like bring different ideas or do things that I don't ask. You know, like, I think that's like a quick way to grow. Like, I think that's how like my client success manager grew from like a client success manager to like the COO of the company. And I will potentially, depending on how the next project or next company that we, you know, goes, like I potentially may even make him the CEO of the company, because like he like does stuff that I don't ask, and it's like he kept track of everything like on Excel that I never asked him to. I didn't even know that he was doing it. And like, you know, he brings really good suggestions on how to handle situations. And like, I love people that like bring ideas to the table and bring something new and innovative to the table on how we can improve. Or like if there's a hole in the business that we can plug, like that to me is like really important. Like if you're just doing your job, like great. If you're just doing your tasks, like that's fantastic. But I feel like the way to grow quicker is like, you got to do a little bit more than just your tasks. Like you have to bring something new or something, a way to make, you know, the job more efficient, or the way to make the company more money, for like them to be like, this person, like they get it, they love what they do, they love the company, they see like good projection and growth, and like here's what they're going to bring to the table. Like you got to bring something to the table besides like just working, clocking in 8 to 5, like that's not a problem. That's totally cool. But if you want to grow in a higher position faster, you got to think outside the box a little bit.
For sure. So like in a business model like perspective, so what Assistantly does is, do you essentially bridge the gap between companies and then the external people in the Philippines or wherever it may be, and that's kind of the model there, right? Is that correct?
Essentially, yeah. So like, small, mid-sized, large companies are looking to fill certain roles, whether it's like an ops manager or a salesperson or an executive assistant. And like, they'll come to us and they'll tell us, hey, like, I want somebody part-time or I want somebody full-time. Here's the types of tasks I want them to do. Here are the types of tools and platforms I'd like them to know. And then like, we recruit specific to each person. Like, we don't like have like a pool of VAs waiting around, like, because
Okay,
like
gotcha.
every client is so different on what they need. Obviously there's clients that have like, very similar job roles and job types, but then we recruit specific to that client. Like they get to interview some of the, 3 of the candidates. They choose whoever they think is best. And like the client pays us, a subscription, and then we pay the VA, and then we, essentially collect the middle, right? So it's like, it's a subscription. It's a subscription on a monthly basis. So it's like, I mean, I've always been a fan of like the recurring revenue. The first business when marketing was like per project, which can be pretty inconsistent. Like you have 1 month you're doing great, then slower months you're not doing very great. Especially in real estate, it's hot and cold. Where like the VA business to me was attractive because I'm like, people need these VAs to work in their business on like a consistent basis, and it's recurring, so it's like a consistent cash flow, which I really liked. So yeah, that's a little bit about how the model
So they're
works.
not, so the people that you're hired, is it like contract work for them, even though it's a subscription through you?
Yeah, so everybody in my company, they're contractors. So I mean, like, like they're contracted to work on a part-time or full-time basis.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we offer extremely high compensation. We offer health,
Gotcha.
like a health stipend. We offer like health and wellness coaching. We offer monthly bonuses and, meetings and raffles. And so we like to really take care of our people. Like, like the reason, like, I did one by Damon John, the Shark Tank guy. Like I did like a recent post about it, about like his biggest thing was like, like you don't have to create something new. Like, you don't have to create this new company that does something like entirely new. You could take like what's different and just make it better. Right. Like the VA industry has been around since 2008. And I'm like, damn, like I was like a baby. Right. And I didn't even know about it for like the longest time. I wish I would do it. If I knew about VAs a long time, I mean, it would be a different story. But like I just like took an industry where like the CEOs of these VA companies are like 40, 50. They're older people. They're very dinosaur with the way they go about things. And I was like, I'm gonna freshen it up. And like, if you look at the copywriting in my website, I say like the F word a couple times. I say shit a couple times. Like I'm not hiding that stuff. I'm not gonna be like I've had people who are like, oh, that's not very professional. I'm like, don't work with me. I don't care, right? Go somewhere else, right? I mean, if you don't want to work with me based off the stuff I say on the website, that's totally fine. Then I also have like a lot of people that are like, oh, I love your website. I love how authentic and engaging it is. And like, I love the way you take care of your people. And like, I wanted to take, something that's been around, freshen it up, and like really take care of the people, because a lot of the people that are in the VA industry are not taken care of properly. And I wanted to make sure like that was at the core function of the company, is like, let's bring people like on 2 opposite sides of the country to like better the business, right? But like also treating these VAs like they've never been treated before, which I've been fortunate to like do. I've been able to hire hundreds of VAs in the Philippines, which they have amazing culture, but it's like not as fortunate obviously here as the US. There's like typhoons and power outages, and COVID was really big there, and there's like a lot of shit there that they go through that I wanted to make sure that we could provide an opportunity somewhere else. So
I think also like, just correct me if I'm wrong, but the timing was kind of perfect, because you made Assistantly in 2020, and that's when COVID hit, it was like prime, and everybody was indoors. So I think people got used to the idea of working remotely, right? Before then, it was more like people, yeah, you can have a virtual assistant, but people weren't really accustomed to it. They weren't used to it. But with COVID, everybody's staying home, working remote. Now a VA is just like any other employee. Like it's not anything special. It's not anything like, oh, this is a person working from the Philippines. It's just like, oh, it's just another employee, another person working for a company, right? So I think the timing really helped there as well.
Yeah, timing's key. I didn't know I was going to do as well as it did. I hoped it would have, but like, timing is like, for me, I saw remote workforce was shifting, right? Everybody was working remote. All the offices were closed. So I'm like, well, why not hire,
Exactly.
VAs
Yeah.
for your business that can do like, and that's not to discredit anybody in the US and their role types and like, their capabilities, like, cause I have people that work in the US that do a great job, but I love the way the Filipinos like work and their culture and how, how hard they work and how loyal they are. And,
Yeah.
how they only want to see your business. Like they're like just really awesome, amazing people. And it's really opened my eyes. So it's like, for me, I want people to have that same experience that I have like with my team. So they can have something like that on their team. So
Yeah, and I'm glad you're compensating them and treating them well, because a lot of workers or in the past, like a lot of VA companies didn't treat them well. So I think that's important as well. I wanted to ask you, in your projects, in your business assistantly, like what were some of the more like memorable mistakes or problems that you've had? Can you tell them like how you solved them and maybe how the lessons you learned can be applied for young entrepreneurs?
yeah, one of the biggest things is niching down and knowing your audience, which is like, like for me, I was doing just real estate, right, to start, which was really great. And the problem is, when I started opening the floodgates to different industries, it became a lot harder to like, you can't like, once you're getting into CBD and gaming and tech, like it's great. You have like a broad customer base or client base, but it's like, like the marketing campaigns and like, you got to like now market to different industries and it makes it a lot more complicated. So like knowing your audience is really important, and like niching down is really big. Like I wish I'd have just stayed within like one niche, because we've been able to grow a lot faster and scale a lot faster, even though we scaled pretty fast. Like, like niching down to like one thing or one industry or one vertical, or like knowing your audience up front and like defining your audience or defining your ideal client will make it easier going forward when starting a company. Of like, instead of saying like, I want everybody to try this, it's like, no, you don't want everybody to try this. Your focus is like, startups that have like 10 employees, right? Maybe it's like, fitness coaches is your target. So it's like, the third company that's being launched in August is called VIP Days, and the whole concept's pretty wild, but it's like pretty much hiring a service provider to get stuff done in a day, right? Like, they can help you create SOPs in a day, or help you create branding in a day, or help you create, or help you with high level strategy in a day. And these are like high level experts that will literally spend a one-on-one day with you. And like VIP Days are very specific offering. So it's like, I'm not doing hourly, I'm not doing monthly retainer, I'm not doing product based. It's like VIP Days. So like when we're doing this, this platform that we're launching, next month, it's like, it's just VIP Days, and it makes it so much easier now. Cause like, we're not after like every service provider. We're not after like every, monthly retainer. We're not trying to compete with Upwork and Fiverr. It's completely different, on the way, we market it and the type of people that we want on the platform. So, like niching down is one of them. The fastest way to grow, I've learned, is like partners, like not like necessarily equity partners, but people that like use your product, that love it, to have a good network, like, that can, promote and advertise you. Somebody that like wakes up in the morning and they're like, oh, like I love this system. Like, let me plug them. Like our company, like we barely put any marketing dollars in our company. Like really not that many marketing dollars. Like it's all word of mouth or referral. Like I would say 85 to 90% of our clients are referral based. Which is like, that's the best, most powerful thing, is like word of mouth or referral, because like people trust people, which I noticed. So if like, if like, Matt, has a good network, and, Matt uses us, and everybody, like if people are looking at Matt and that's like, oh, I use a system, and the VAs are awesome. They're like, oh, like Matt said they're awesome, I got to go try them out. Right. So like, or maybe they're like, hey, Matt, like, your VA is great. Like, where did you get your VA from? And, oh, I got him from assistantly. Like, I've learned that, like, the fastest way that we were able to grow was just like good partnerships or good affiliates. And like, that's like my goal, is just literally creating as many partnerships as we can, because in different verticals, whether it's like software or real estate or gym, or we have some really awesome partners that like literally push us business, and like, obviously they get a commission off of it or percentage like off the deals, but to me, it's worth it because it comes from a trusted, verified source.
That makes sense. Kind of stepping back a second. So what happened? I know you mentioned like obviously in the Philippines, like in undeveloped countries, like disasters happen, right? Like power outages way more common, you know, hurricanes, such like that. How do you guys get around that? Like, I'm sure it affects them, right? And like the sense of doing the work.
It's just, I mean, it's just kind of given, right? Like, I wish I was able to control the weather in the Philippines. Unfortunately, I can't. Like it make it easier, but like, it's like when there's typhoons and power outages, like I always say, like I always say this, I think it is what it is, right? Like, and that's like the expectations. Like we've set those expectations up front with a lot of the clients when we say like, you're hiring somebody in the Philippines, they're great workers, but there may be power outages or maybe like typhoon season, like there may be like, there might, like there was a COVID outbreak, like they're like, we don't just say everything is going to be like, rainbows and unicorns every single day. Cause like, that's not realistic. Also, like the price they're paying for it is like, it's a more affordable contractor, right? So like, not saying you get what you pay for, but obviously it's a lot cheaper than the US. Like US, we have stable Wi-Fi, we have air conditioning, we don't have any like really weather condition problems. Like there you do. So it's like, we set that expectation up front. We try to, to the best of our abilities. And a lot of our clients understand, like, I'm in Orange County. I mean, we're not going to get a typhoon here. I hope not. But, like, it's like, it's 75 degrees. I'm working in an office. Like, it's not like that over there. So it's like, which is, we try to make that clear to our, our clients so they understand.
For sure. So I'm not sure if you know this, out of curiosity though, since they're like on contract work, is there a way, because obviously they could have like an S corp, right? But I don't know how the Filipino tax system works. Are they able to like lean on some of those incentives? And I'm not sure.
That's a great question. I've never really dove into like how the tax thing works there. I'm sure obviously it's a lot different than it is in the US.
Right.
Obviously, like we have a lot of US contractors, so like we always encourage them, like you should probably do it as an S corp or LLC, because then you can get paid and you can write off on different business expenses. But for the Filipino community, that's a great question. I'm not quite sure on how they do work on their taxes. Sure. But like our job is just to make sure they get paid well and get paid on time. So whatever they do with their money elsewhere is completely up to them.
Yeah, for sure, man. So honestly, I think this is like a great business model, right? Because not only are you solving a problem, but you're also like helping like a distinct group, right? Obviously it's cool what you're doing, but is this oftentimes entrepreneurs, they have multiple projects like you've had. But just because one project became the biggest doesn't mean they're the most proud of it. Is there a different project like you're like really proud of that you did, or like you went after, or is this the one?
So far, this is the one. Like my last company was cool; it did well, but I wouldn't say I was like, oh my god, I was like, this one was like the one that made me most proud. It was a cool company. I was able to be like my own boss essentially, but I wouldn't say like that one was like a revolutionary one for me. It was like, it was nothing crazy. This one was like a really fun one to build because like, when you're able to manage hundreds of people and, see the types of things that like we can help people do. And, like it's more motivating and it's a very exciting for me to see. And, I'm never going to stop working on projects. I think it's just the entrepreneur in me. Like I'll be lying if I'm going to say I'm going to be doing this for the next 20 years. There's probably no way, but I just a passion. Like I sold the last one and I have a system and I'm starting another one. And like, I don't know, you never know. I mean, like ideas come, what I do is like, like with any ideas that we have, like I act on the ideas. I don't just sit and wait around, like I'm like, my dad, who's like extremely foreign used to tell me like, your idea is so great, but it doesn't mean shit because you're not doing it. You're not making any money from it. Like great idea. Cool. But like, what are you doing to make this idea come to life? And I'm like, well, nothing. Right? So it's like, like people have such great ideas, but it's like, you just got to start and like, you learn, like, I didn't know how to do an LLC or S corp or like taxes or a bookkeeper or CPA or like any of that stuff, or like how to invoice clients. But like, if you think it's a good idea, like you kind of just figure it out as you go. I've also been like, kind of like, I know a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs probably don't agree with this, but like, I just say, I never really even created a business plan for any of my businesses, which is probably bad to say. I kind of just like, I had a girl that like I was interviewing with, who was like a parcel pending, I think the company was. And she's like, oh, we need to, we spent like, you got to spend like 6 months on a business plan. And I was like, nah, that's too much time for me. I'm not gonna do that. I'd rather spend 6 months getting into the business. I'll probably figure it out. And like, obviously like, you kind of like, once you're in it, you start kind of figuring out, what the plan is and what the projections are and like what you're looking to do. But I've never been like a big business plan. I like kind of look at like how are clients responding to our product and service? How can we adjust it to make it better? Like I can tweak as I go.
So when you have a business idea or an opportunity, is it just like intuition for you? Is it just like based on your past experiences, this is probably going to work? Or like you said right now, you don't really take like a more analytic approach where you kind of write out a whole business idea script,
I mean, I don't care if I fail or not. I think that's one of the things. Like, if I fail, whatever, at least I tried, right? But like for me, like even like the next company that we're launching is just like, I'm like, it also is in connection to this company, right? Like, we have a lot of business owners that don't have their SOPs established, or they don't have their brand created, or like they don't have any strategy. And like, we want clients that like have their shit figured out before they come to us. Like their VAs are set up for success, right? So like when the VIP days concept idea came to me, from my CMO, I'm like, why don't like there's got to be a platform or business to connect VIPs with like certain, business owners, because I think every business owner should hire a VIP for like different stuff. So then I'm like let's just roll with it. And then we're launching in August, but like we have like a 400 person wait list already, which it sounds maybe small to some people for a platform, but for us it's a new space. It's like it's not really well known at all. There's not really too much on VIP days, so but we're getting such like high engagement, which is really exciting, and people are stoked for this and like stoked for the opportunity to showcase themselves as a VIP to potential clients and prospects. So like I've also had an idea before where I'm like, I thought it was a good idea, then I started getting into it, I'm like, this is a shitty idea, right? But like I typically like to act on ideas where I'm like, this is like, you either go all in or you don't go at all, right? Like I'm gonna go, I go in like, this is my plan A, there's no plan B, right? And if a plan A fails and flops, then whatever, right? So like I'm hoping this VIP days it kills it and crushes it. Like that's my goal, and I'm going to do everything in my power with the team. We have a really good team for this one to start at the forefront to really launch this thing. But I'm not going to cry a river if it doesn't. I learned from doing. So yeah, I mean it's like I always I'm always like, starting is the hardest part. Like if I start, I'll just keep on going. So that's typically how I go about things.
One of my business professors in college used to say that ideas are cheap. Like anytime
Totally.
a student would come up to him and he was like, yeah, ideas are cheap. It's all about execution. If you don't execute something, it's worthless. Like it's like as if it didn't exist. So it's a good point. On that note, it's been a great conversation so far. We appreciate your time. We're going to link all the information about Assistantly in the description, so people who are interested can read more about you and go to your LinkedIn page as well. Any last words or thoughts you want to say to any young entrepreneur out there who's trying to do what you are currently doing?
Yeah, no, well, thank you guys for having me on. It's been like a super fun conversation. I mean, I love talking to, like different like-minded people, and like, especially in the business realm, or like, just trying to help other people kind of get off and launch. But, advice is just like, you always hear like, if you're in a corporate job and you have a good idea, like, you started out as a side hustle first, right? And see like what kind of attention you're going to get. Like I'm big on piloting. Like you pilot it and then you see, right? Like you get customer feedback right away. Like I piloted the VA stuff and like I got good client response, and like, and then I also got response. I'm like, I don't like this. And I adjusted. So like piloting is like really big for me. I think like if you're able to like somehow like pilot or test the idea, it really helps. Like duct taping stuff. Like, dude, I'm big on duct taping stuff, especially to start. Like I was creating this platform, and I was like, it's going to cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like, my buddy was like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, you're going to put that much money into a platform that you don't even know is going to work. And I was like, you're right. I'm an idiot. He's like, just duct tape it together, create like an MVP, the minimal viable product of the company. And then like, see like what people how people respond to it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's like, that's what I did. Instead of putting hundreds of thousands of dollars, like I put a certain budget towards it. We're building it, and we hope it does well. And for every company, like that's kind of the way, just duct tape it, like don't be afraid to duct tape it. It doesn't need to be perfect to start. Like, the simpler you can make things, the better. I've learned, like, I always complicate things. I always used to complicate things. And like, but I'm like my agreements are one pagers, bullet points, right? Because it's easy to skim. Like my LinkedIn post or like hook, bullet points, easy to skim, like one-liner break, so people are easy to read and easy to scan. I learned like being simple kills and crushes everything. Like, because like people all like to overcomplicate stuff, and I run into this problem with so many other entrepreneurs or clients or prospects. It's like, I go, dude, you're so overcomplicating this. It's a lot simpler than you think it is. It's just like, and obviously not everybody's mind works like that, but I really try to make things as simple as possible. Like, I try to make my schedule as simple as possible. I try to make the relationship as simple as possible. I try to make my, businesses as simple as possible. Like, I lay out everything as simple as possible. So like, people are not going to ask me a billion questions. Like, I'm not going to write a crazy SOP when things can be condensed in 3 to 5 bullet points. And that's just facts. Like,
Yeah.
I wish I would have wrote my essays different in college, because I would have probably instead of writing a 7-pager, I would have probably wrote that in a 1-pager. Probably would have got an F, but like everything that you need could be done in a 1-pager, dude. Like 1-pagers are like my decks are like everything could be like condensed and simplified. So like, even when people come up with their processes, like there's no need to overcomplicate. Like, make it simple, make it easy to understand. Like, there was something that there's something that I saw on LinkedIn from another entrepreneur, and it's like an email marketing software. He's pretty big on LinkedIn, and he said most, like, you get more of a reply on your emails when you write like a 5th grader. And I was like, what the you write like a 5th grader? And I'm like, okay, so you want me to dumb down what I said? So like, I literally like wrote a 2-line email, and like I got like a crazy ROI on my sales email. Cause like, I used to write these long emails, like just like da-da-da. And I'm like, I go, would I read a long email? Fuck no, I ain't writing. I'm not going to read a long email. Like, I like to work on my phone. I only work on my laptop if I'm on Zoom calls. I work on my phone otherwise. My Slack, my Notion, I work pretty much fully on my phone. And I'm like, it's got to be like mobile friendly, and it's got to be simple. But like, I try to like be simple and write like a 5th grader, so people can like understand, baby it down for people, like, because you might understand it, but somebody else might not. So yeah, that's some of my advice for sure.
Sure, as the saying goes, keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's very true, man. Well, appreciate everything, dude. Great value for the audience here. So, and for us too, I learned a lot, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'll continue to follow the podcast, and I'm excited to see what you guys have in store. Consistency, that's what we talked about, just being consistent.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.